Did you know that a single collection account on your credit report can slash your score by over 100 points, haunting your financial life for up to 7 years, even if you pay it off? That's a game changer, and today we're exposing the raw truth about whether you should pay collections or just let them expire. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now because we break down real money questions with honest, no BS advice, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Let's dive deep into this dilemma that hits so many of us and figure out what's truly best for your wallet and your peace of mind. First, let's unpack what collections really are and why they're such a big deal. When you fall behind on a debt, whether it's a credit card, a medical bill, a personal loan, or even a utility bill, the original creditor might decide they're done chasing you. Instead, they sell or transfer that debt to a collection agency for pennies on the dollar. That's when it shows up as a collection on your credit report. And trust me, it's not just a little ding. This mark can seriously hurt your credit score, sometimes dropping it by 100 points or more overnight. It affects your ability to get loans, rent an apartment, or even land certain jobs if they check your credit. So, the stakes are high, and the big question looms. Should you pay it off, or should you wait for it to fall off naturally? I'm going to break this down step by step, looking at the financial, legal, and even emotional sides of this decision. So stick with me. Let's start with the basics of how collections impact your credit over time. By law, most collections stay on your credit report for 7 years from the date of the first missed payment that led to the account going delinquent. After those 7 years, they're supposed to disappear from your report, no matter if they're paid or not. But here's the harsh reality. Paying off a collection doesn't just wipe it clean from your history, which might look a smidge better to some lenders, but the negative mark still sticks around for the full 7 years in most cases. So, if you're thinking, I'll just pay this off and my credit will bounce back, unfortunately, that's not how it works. The damage is done, and paying doesn't magically undo it. This is why so many people wonder if it's even worth shelling out the cash, especially if they're strapped for money already. Let's dig into the reasons you might still want to pay, even with this limitation. If the collection is relatively new, say within the first year or two of that 7-year timeline, paying it off can have some benefits. For one, it might prevent further damage to your credit. Some collection agencies keep reporting late payments or tack on extra fees and interest if you ignore the debt, which can make the situation worse over time. Paying stops that cycle. Plus, if you're planning to apply for a big loan, like a mortgage or a car loan, some lenders view unpaid collections as a major red flag, even if your overall score isn't terrible. Paying shows you're taking responsibility, which could help your case when negotiating with lenders or proving you're serious about cleaning up your finances. I've heard from folks who paid off recent collections, and while their score didn't skyrocket, it did help them qualify for better terms on a loan because the lender saw they were making an effort. So, in the early stages, paying can be a strategic move, even if it's not a full fix. On the other hand, if the collection is old, say 5 or 6 years into that 7-year window, paying might not do much for you at all, at least from a credit score perspective. At that point, the damage to your score has likely already leveled off, and the collection is close to expiring anyway. Why throw money at something that's about to disappear? Well, here's where it gets tricky. In some states, making a payment on an old debt, or even acknowledging that you owe it, can reset the clock on the statute of limitations. That's the legal time limit a creditor or collector has to sue you for the debt. If the statute of limitations has already expired, which varies by state, often 3 to 6 years, they can't legally force you to pay. But if you make a partial payment or admit to the debt, that clock might restart, giving them more time to come after you. So before you do anything with an old collection, check your state's laws or consult with someone who knows the rules. The last thing you want is to accidentally revive a debt you could have just waited out. Now, let's pivot to a different angle, the ethical and emotional side of this decision. Finances aren't just numbers, they're personal. Some people feel a moral obligation to pay what they owe, even if it's an old debt, and even if it doesn't help their credit score. They want the peace of mind that comes with knowing they've settled their accounts. And I get that. It can feel like a weight off your shoulders. I've talked to people who paid off collections just to close that chapter of their life, even though they knew it wouldn't change their credit much. On the flip side, others see it differently. If the debt is past the statute of limitations and they can't be sued, they're okay with letting it sit there until it expires. They'd rather use their money for current needs than pay for past mistakes. Neither approach is inherently right or wrong. It is about what aligns with your values and your financial reality. Let's also talk strategy if you do decide to pay. Never, ever pay the full amount without trying to negotiate first. Collection agencies often buy debts for a fraction of the original balance, so they were usually willing to settle for less than what you owe, sometimes as little as 30–50% of the total. Call them up, be polite but firm, and see if you can work out a deal. Just make sure to get any agreement in writing before you send a dime. And here's a pro tip. Ask if they'll agree to a pay for delete, where they remove the collection from your credit report entirely in exchange for payment. It's not guaranteed. Many agencies won't do it, and it's technically against the policies of credit bureaus, but it's worth asking. If they say no, at least you've tried. Also, be cautious about how you communicate. Don't admit to owing the debt over the phone if it's old, because that could be used against you later. Just stick to negotiating the terms. Another thing to consider is how collections affect your life beyond just your credit score. Unpaid collections can lead to constant harassment from debt collectors, phone calls, letters, even threats of lawsuits, though they have to follow strict rules under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. If they're breaking those rules, like calling at weird hours or being abusive, you can report them. But for many, the stress of dealing with collectors is a reason to settle, even if the debt is old. On the other hand, if you're not being bothered and the debt is close to expiring, you might choose to ride it out. Also, think about your long-term goals. If you're nowhere near buying a house or needing a loan, maybe waiting makes sense. But if you've got big plans in the next couple of years, tackling the debt now might be smarter. If you're feeling overwhelmed by all this, don't go it alone. There are free resources out there to help. Check out the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's website. They've got tons of info on dealing with collections and understanding your rights. You can also look into nonprofit credit counseling services for personalized advice without the hefty price tag of some financial advisors. And if you're worried about the legal side, a quick chat with a local attorney or even a free legal aid service can clarify what collectors can and can't do in your state, and do in your state. Knowledge is power, and the more you know about your specific situation, the better decision you'll make. So, to wrap this up, deciding whether to pay a collection or let it expire isn't a one-size-fits-all answer. If the debt is new, paying could limit further damage and help with future loans or lender perceptions. If it's old, waiting might be fine, but you've got to understand the legal risks like the statute of limitations. Balance the financial impact with your personal values. Do you want the peace of mind, or are you okay letting it go? Arm yourself with the facts, negotiate if you pay, and don't hesitate to seek help if you're unsure. I hope this deep dive has shed some light on this murky topic for you. If this video helped, give it a thumbs up. Share it with someone who might be in the same boat, and don't forget to subscribe to Real Money Questions for more straight talk advice on real money issues. Thanks for sticking with me through this, and I'll see you in the next one.